The Friend Breakup, when best friends grow apart and the complicated journey of letting go. I looked across the park bench at Nozomi, and it felt like I was looking at a photograph of a stranger. This was our spot, where we'd planned our futures, dug up weird treasures, and shared every secret since we were 7. But today, a year into middle school, the air between us was thick and still. We were in the same place, wearing the same school uniforms, but we weren't together. She was scrolling through something on her phone, a slight, serious furrow in her brow. I knew she was looking at college application essays, a 3-year early head start that felt like a deliberate announcement that her path was already fixed, and mine was still a blank map. I hated that I felt jealous, but mostly, I felt terrified of being left behind. It wasn't always like this. Last summer, she and I were an unstoppable unit, the two halves of one completely weird, uncool person. We used to spend hours just inventing an entire fantasy world called Aethelgard that existed only in our notebooks. Now, Aethelgard was gathering dust under my bed. Did you see the application requirements for Kyo's accelerated program? Nozomi's voice cut through my thoughts, clinical and sharp. She didn't look up. It's insane. I need to boost my extracurriculars. I'm thinking of dropping my volunteer shift at the shelter. It's too much of a time sink. I remember the day she cried when they had to put down one of the old dogs. The memory felt like a betrayal of the person sitting next to me. I didn't answer her. What was I supposed to say? My biggest goal this week is to figure out if I actually like philosophy or if I just like the idea of liking philosophy. I didn't have a 5-year plan. I didn't even have a 5-day plan. All I had was a growing sense of panic that everyone else, especially Nozomi, had figured out their whole adult identity, and I was still stuck in the beta phase. I felt like a cheap console that couldn't run the high-definition game everyone else was playing. We were supposed to be discovering who we were together, but her discovery was about efficiency and achievement, and mine was turning out to be about confusion and the crushing weight of having no direction. Later that week in the courtyard, I saw her. She was surrounded by the Future Leaders Group, 3 students who carried themselves with the polished air of people who already owned a company. They were laughing about a mock debate tournament. I raised my hand to wave, a tiny, hopeful gesture, but before I could, Nozomi leaned in to whisper something to the girl beside her, a look of shared, superior amusement on their faces. It was a closed circle, and I was definitely on the outside. They weren't unkind, they just didn't see me. And in the complex social ecology of middle school, being unseen by your best friend is the cruelest form of rejection. I slowly lowered my hand, the air suddenly tasting metallic and flat. I made one last attempt the next day. "Hey Zumi," I tried, using the nickname that felt so wrong now. Remember the time we tried to start our own language with only words that rhymed with doodle? I was trying to inject some of our old, necessary ridiculousness into the sterile atmosphere. Nozomi finally looked up from her calculus textbook, her expression patient but vacant. "Akito, I need to focus. I'm meeting the robotics club to finalize my entry plan for the regional competition. The doodle language thing was, like, 3 years ago. We've grown up. The words weren't mean, but they were final. The friendship wasn't over because of a fight. It was over because she had simply edited me out of her schedule. She didn't have time for the part of herself that was still capable of playing." I walked away without another word. The truth landed heavily. The friend breakup wasn't a sudden, dramatic explosion, but a slow, quiet suffocation. I got home and went straight to my room, pulling my heavy curtains shut. The darkness felt safer than the bright, demanding world outside. I wasn't just losing a friend, I was losing the only person who understood the old me. The anxiety, which I knew was a part of my own developing mental landscape, started to coil in my chest, tight and cold. It's hard to explore who you are when you're constantly mourning who you were supposed to be, or who you were told you had to be to keep up. My phone, buzzing with a generic school notification, felt like a judgment. The next morning, a flyer taped to a lamppost caught my eye. The Future Earth Project, Clean Up Our River. It wasn't elite, it wasn't about college applications, and it certainly wasn't about building a robot. It was messy, ethical, and entirely outside the competitive bubble I felt trapped in. I stood there for a long time, tracing the faded edges of the paper. It was a social issue. The local river was filthy, and a chance to explore a different side of my identity, one that wasn't defined by my grades or by Nozomi's expectations. I took a deep breath. My hands felt clammy, but I pulled out my phone and reluctantly typed out the contact number listed at the bottom. It was a small step, but it was mine. The cleanup meeting was held in the dusty back room of a community center. There were only 5 people there, mostly senior students. I felt awkward and out of place until a senior named Kenji, who looked like he'd rather be surfing, started talking. "It's okay if you're here because you don't know what else to do," he said, pushing a coil of rope towards me. "Identity isn't a single path. It's a whole, messy forest you have to walk through. You don't have to have a dream yet. Being a good human is a good starting place." His words were a powerful counter-narrative to the pressure I felt. For the first time in months, I felt my tense shoulders relax. Maybe not knowing the answer was actually a part of the process of becoming an adult. I saw Nozomi a week later near the school gates. I was wearing my slightly mud-stained Future Earth Project t-shirt. She stopped dead, her eyes scanning the logo. "You joined an environmental club?" she asked, her voice laced with unconcealed surprise. I shrugged, a genuine smile pulling at my lips for the first time in a while. "Yeah, someone has to make sure there's an Earth left for your perfect college to exist on, right?" The jab was gentle, almost a joke. She didn't laugh, but she didn't criticize either. She just nodded slowly. "I see. Well, that's good, Akito." Her response was polite, but utterly lacking in the old, shared spark. It was the moment I realized the friend breakup was permanent. We were just 2 ships sailing on completely different tides. I walked home alone that day, but the loneliness didn't feel crushing. It felt like space. Nozomi's path was a bright, straight highway, well lit by ambition. My path felt like a winding, dirt trail through a quiet forest. But it was my trail. It was about more than just a club. It was about choosing an identity that valued ethics and compassion over pure achievement. I could see now how Nozomi's single-minded focus was a kind of armor against the world's messiness, and maybe against her own underlying anxiety. We had chosen different ways to learn to be adults. She by becoming a planner, and me by allowing myself to be lost. Both felt like realistic and complex ways to grow. That evening, I did something I should have done months ago. I opened our old Aethelgard chat and typed a message. "Hey Nozomi, this is the last time I'm checking in on our old world. I'm glad you're crushing the robotics thing, and I know you'll get into all your top schools. But I think we're done, and that's okay. Our story was great, but it's time for separate volumes. I hope your future is everything you've planned. Akito." I hesitated, a wave of sadness washing over me, the grief of letting go. Then I pressed send. The screen showed the message delivered. It was a clear boundary, a clean ending to a chapter. It felt mature, painful, and absolutely necessary. I put my phone down and looked out the window. The city was a sea of light. Millions of individual, complicated lives all unfolding at once. I didn't have to be on the brightest, straightest path to be moving forward. My journey was full of doubt, detours, and environmental cleanup days, and it was going to be a long, challenging process of identity exploration. The feeling of loss was still there, a dull ache, but it was balanced by a new, quiet hope. Nozomi and I would never be the kids on the bench again, but we were both, finally, becoming the complicated adults we were meant to be. I took a deep breath, picked up my philosophical notes, and got back to my own, messy, necessary